In Star Wars, Wookiees are among the strongest species in the galaxy, with most being able to rip off the limbs of their enemies with relative ease. However, despite this strength of theirs, they usually did not act out in violence unless provoked. Additionally, their strong bonds among each other were often taken advantage of by slavers, who threatened to hurt their family members as retaliation for disobedience. With all of that said, the black-furred Wookiee briefly shown in the second episode of the Book of Boba Fett was a complete anomaly of his people. His story begins with a group of Trandoshan slavers lurking on Kashyyyk in search of Wookiees to capture and later sell into slavery. As they moved through the thick forests, they discovered a lone Wookiee unconscious and bound to a tree. Before they knew it, they were ambushed from the shadows by Krrsantan, with them dropping dead second by second. As the few survivors regrouped, they were shocked to see that a Wookiee had used one of their own as bait, an unthinkable act among a species that was so tight and close with one another. Nonetheless, the remaining Trandoshans soon met their end, with only one being left alive, and to the lone survivor's surprise, Krrsantan requested to be taken to his employer's gladiator arena, where slaves were forced to fight for the entertainment of others. Once he was brought to the arena, he volunteered to fight the strongest warrior available, both to train and entertain himself, as well as to feed his bloodlust of ending lives without repercussions. Although impressed by his ambition, the host of the underground death brawls, two brothers, shot a blaster stun at the Wookiee. The stunned beast was then placed in chains and made into their prized champion, an act that they would deeply regret later in life. While their slave, Krrsantan was put through brutal training courses and had his body modified with metal surgically implanted into his hands to give him permanent knuckle dusters. Once the time came to finally fight in the arena, Krrsantan was unlike any other Wookiee the crowds had seen. In his first fight, he was put up against 3 other combatants, each armed with weapons. Krrsantan tossed his own weapons aside and simply charged at his first opponent, knocking the Trandoshan down and killing him with a single punch to the head, which exploded from sheer force. His second opponent was quickly dispatched as well, with his body being tossed into a pit of fire within the arena like a small toy. The third and final opponent, having witnessed the fates of his 2 allies, froze up in complete fear. Krrsantan then picked the Nikto up and forced him to praise the Wookiee in front of the crowds before having his neck snapped like a twig. Black Krrsantan soon became a favorite among the underground deathmatch audiences, with him going undefeated in every fight he was in. Eventually, Krrsantan was able to escape his imprisonment and became a bounty hunter, later coming back and enslaving the 2 brothers who had captured him earlier. And just like they did with him, the Wookiee brutally trained them as fighters and likely sold them off once he got bored. As a bounty hunter, he came under the employment of Jabba the Hutt. One of his first assignments from the crime lord was to take out the man who had ended the Hutt's planet-wide water tax. Unknown to the Wookiee bounty hunter, the man he was tasked in killing was the exiled Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. Discovering the hermit had some connection to the Lars family, Krrsantan kidnapped Owen and began torturing him, before being confronted by Kenobi. As the disguised Jedi Master came near, he felt a sense of fear from the large beast before him, understanding his foe was no ordinary Wookiee. He initially tried to mind trick him to leave, but it failed, and he was instead brutally attacked, getting bashed with the bounty hunter's weapon and even being bitten into. Having underestimated his opponent, Kenobi nearly paid for his mistake with his life. Luckily for him, he was wanted alive more than dead, so he was instead captured inside an electrified net. As he struggled to free himself, he saw Krrsantan pick up Owen and toss him off a cliff. It was at this point that Obi-Wan had to break his rule of not using the Force directly, in fear of it exposing him as a Jedi. He used the mystical power to save the moisture farmer from his fall. He then went all out, igniting his lightsaber for the first time in years and calling upon the full power of the Force. Kenobi unleashed a flurry of rocks and later boulders to crush the bounty hunter. Despite being battered in such a manner from a power that he didn't understand, Krrsantan still continued to fight, resulting with Obi-Wan slicing through the Wookiee's right eye, leaving a giant scar over it. Even so, the fight went on with Kenobi getting viciously punched by the large beast, until he finally deflected a blaster bolt from Krrsantan's rifle, knocking him off the cliff. Although severely injured, Krrsantan was able to survive, and fled from Tatooine not wishing to deal with Jabba's reprisals over his failure. However, he was eventually forgiven by the Hutt, who saw the Wookiee as an indispensable warrior, and among his best bounty hunters on his payroll. Later in his career, Krrsantan took a job from Darth Vader alongside Boba Fett. This job involved him capturing a prominent Imperial scientist, which he did successfully. He even participated in a battle on the side of the Empire, where he fought against Chewbacca, besting him in their long brawl. Afterwards, he was about to kill Han Solo, but was stopped by C-3PO, who had annoyed him to the point that he punched the droid so hard, it ended up electrocuting Krrsantan, knocking him out, which allowed for Chewbacca and Solo to escape with their lives. While bounty hunting was his main source of income, he appeared to do it more out of enjoyment than necessity, as he continued to fight in arenas during his free time. All in all, Black Krrsantan is one of the most dangerous and brutal bounty hunters in the galaxy, and his story will continue in the Book of Boba Fett, as he is currently employed by the Hutt twins seeking to take over Tatooine following Jabba's death.